Yes, I'm here with Joe Grice, the chief economist. Mr. Grice, can you tell us what was the main driver? What were the main drivers of growth, that 0.1% expansion?
Well, on the evidence we have, it was a pretty uniform picture. Production industries also rose by 0.1% over the quarter, and so did the service sector. The service sector is now about 70% of the economy. That's large. Within services, there are one or two things we can pick out. For example, public sector output we think was probably a little bit stronger, perhaps 0.2%. And actually also, it looks as if motor trade, retail motor trade did pretty well, rather stronger than that 0.1%.
Can we return to those two components in just a minute? But is it possible for us to tell if this increase is just a flash in the pan at this stage?
Well, we don't know on the evidence that we have. What we do know, this is based on about 40,000 returns from producers. It's the first estimate. We get more information over the next few weeks, and as we get that information, then we update and, if necessary, revise our figures.
Are you able to tell from the statistics that you've got so far whether the recovery that we're getting, though, is sustainable?
That's not really part of what, as a statistics office, we do. Our job is to measure the economy as is, and what we reckon is, based on the information we've had, the economy grew by 0.1% in the fourth quarter.
That public sector growth that you mentioned, is that being driven mainly by the government's fiscal stimulus?
Well, this is certainly things like hospitals and schools, so you'd think this would reflect expenditure, yes, indeed.
So does it mean if that fiscal stimulus were to be withdrawn, that part of the driver of growth wouldn't have been there and the economy wouldn't have grown at all?
Well, we don't know. What we know is that public sector output was a little bit stronger than the 0.1, about 0.2% growth, as I say. That's clear from the information that we have.
And in terms of the increase in the motor trade section of it, what was the driver of that part?
Well, again, all we have, as it were, is the returns from the producers, from the distributors in this case, and that's what it shows. So we know it was strong. Why it was strong, that's something that the analysts and policymakers will no doubt need to look at.
Mr. Grice, the third quarter number was revised higher, even though we still had a contraction. So can we tell if there's going to be an upward revision to the fourth quarter expansion that we've just had?
Yeah. What we know is that as we get extra information, then obviously we may need to revise the figure. And typically the evidence suggests the revision might be of the order of 0.1 or 0.2, but critically in both directions. In other words, there's no evidence that this is other than a central estimate.